guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I am going to share with you the story of what I've been calling my near-death-like experience. I shared this briefly in my video on my pre-birth memories and near-death-like experience that I did, I don't know, a year ago now. And since that video has been picked up by the YouTube algorithm, it's become my most popular video and I get a lot of questions about this. And so I just want to go into a little more depth on this part of my story. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to talk to me in the comments. Like and share. Check out my description box for links to my discussion group and my Facebook and Instagram. So I was depressed as a child. I pretty much grew up that way. The religious environment that I was raised in taught me to hate myself. By the time I was in my mid-teens, I was suicidal, and I lived that way off and on for several years. One of the number one questions that I get on my near-death-like experience is what triggered it? Because people want to have an experience like this, and so they're thinking, well, is there something that I can do to trigger this? And I just want to say it's absolutely fine to ask for an experience like this and to seek an experience like this. And I think that there are healthy ways to go about this. Joe Dispenza talks about triggering experiences like this through meditation and inner work. And I think that's a much better way to go about it than what happened to me, because I was just depressed. I was lost. I was suicidal. I'm not exaggerating. For years, I was begging God to give me an experience. I had insomnia. My anxiety would keep me awake, and I would hear voices in my head suffocating me and screaming at me. And at the time, I thought they were demonic, but I've since realized that it was my subconscious programming. It was the voice of my own mind. And I would beg Jesus to save me from it, like to come and rescue me with some type of supernatural experience. I would beg God to let me feel His presence. Because even though I hadn't really felt God's presence in this world up to that point, I knew instinctively that if I could just feel God's presence, my troubles would melt away. So years went by like this. Night after night, I would beg God for a supernatural experience of His presence, and nothing would happen until the night that it did. And I can't explain why. I mean, I kind of joke about it. I picture God up in heaven talking to Jesus. Well, I guess we're going to have to do an intervention here because she's just not figuring things out. She's wasting so much time. So anyway, what happened is that I was laying in my bed one night and I was begging God as usual to give me a supernatural experience, to take away my pain, let me feel your presence. I was lying on my back, the room was dark, my eyes were closed, and suddenly I was in an ocean of love. And I'm just going to say right now, I don't know if I had an out-of-body experience. My eyes, my physical eyes were closed the whole time, and the experience was not physical. It was something completely other. It was an experience of pure consciousness, which is hard to explain if you've never experienced that. But it was not like a dream. It was not like a hallucination. That would be a downgrade of consciousness. This was in the other direction. This was, shall we say, a serious upgrade. And it was the most real thing I have ever experienced in this lifetime. This life is the dream compared to that life. And honestly, I have to sort of put my emotion aside and tell this story sort of robotically. Otherwise, I will cry the whole way through it because the emotion of it is that strong. That place that I went to, that was reality. That was home. It was brilliant light and perfect love and peace and safety and security in a way that we just don't have words to describe. And that's probably another thing that you'll notice is that I struggle to find the words because there aren't any. Trying to explain what happens in an experience like that is like trying to describe color to a blind person. A blind person doesn't have any framework to understand what color is. And we in this world don't have a framework to understand, let alone try to describe something that we have no language for. So I'm going to do my best, but if it sounds fantastic, that's because it was. So to get back to the story, one moment I was lying in bed in misery, and the next moment I was in an ocean of love. Two things. First, this ocean of love is like nothing that we experience here. It was like multi-dimensional love. It was tangible. You could feel it all around you and inside of you, like a steam or a vapor or a wave of some kind. That's why I describe it like an ocean, like water. So like here in this world, when you're sad and lonely and you want somebody to give you a hug so that you can feel the comfort and the security and the safety of somebody else's arms, that's what you're missing. Because in the place that we come from, that love, it's like that all the time. And that's why things are so hard here. That's why relationships are so hard. It's because we're trying to find that connection that we're missing. It was like the physical world just melted away and I was floating in it. And I felt it just like wave after wave washing over me and through me. And honestly, I was in so much bliss that I would have gladly stayed there in that ocean of love, just experiencing it for the rest of my existence. It was what I had been looking for my entire life. It was the answer to everything. Second, I instantly knew several things. The love was not just a metaphysical phenomenon. It was a presence. It was what I had been taught to call God, but in that state, I recognized it as my source, my eternal father and mother, the place from which I had literally originated and been born from. I recognized it like a child would recognize his mother or father's face. And this is where words fail me, the safety and the security. This is why I'm always saying in my videos on Universalism that if God is good, then we can trust that we live in a safe and secure and benevolent universe in which everything must work out for good for everyone. It was like the most intimate, tender, the deepest of knowings, like being nurtured within your mother's womb and being held in the safety and protection of your father's arms at the same time. But the womb and the arms are the womb and the arms of the universe, of the source of all that is, of the all-powerful, almighty creator of brilliant light. And to think that anything could ever be wrong or missing or lost is just unthinkable. I'm not sure how long this phase of my experience continued, but at some point, my consciousness expanded out of my head. Up until that point, I still perceived myself to be in my bedroom on my bed, even though I was experiencing an alternate reality. But then what happened is that I expanded out of my head and I found myself up somewhere looking down upon the earth. And I had an experience that many NDEers call ultimate knowledge. It began with me asking a few questions, and the presence, the love that was with me that I was communicating with would answer these questions in the form of instantaneous downloads. And I know this sounds unreal, but I swear to you guys, this is the truth. No sooner would I think a question, then I would get the answer not only to that specific question, but to how that question related to everything else in the universe. And then when I would get all of those answers, I would have questions and I would get those new questions answered with more instantaneous downloads about how all those other things related to everything else in the universe. And so in a matter of a couple of moments, my consciousness just expanded exponentially like this. And all of a sudden, I was large enough to encompass all that is, and I knew everything that there was to know, at least whatever I was capable of knowing at that state. I don't know if there's a state beyond that, maybe. Oh, and by the way, there was unbelievably beautiful music playing, very similar to what I remember from my pre-birth memories. And I do get questions on this also, so I will put some links below to some music that I found that somewhat mimics that, although nothing really does it justice. So the expansion process happened very fast, and eventually I reached the point where I knew everything that there is to know or that I could know at that state. And I specifically remember the point where I had the answer to existence. And I remember thinking, oh, it's the key. This is the key to life. This is what life is all about. And I remember thinking, it's so simple. How could we not know this on Earth? And I understood why everything has to be the way it is and why life is so hard and why we suffer and what it was all about, what the purpose of everything is, why God allows it. And it made so much sense but I wasn't allowed to bring that back with me. Most of what I was shown in this expanded state, I could not bring back with me simply because we are at a denser plane here. And there are just many things that our brains cannot comprehend. I will go into a little bit more detail on some of the things that I do remember that I was able to bring back, but my experience concluded with me contracting back into my head. And what it felt like is that my consciousness was contracting like a balloon losing air, and all the knowledge that I had gained in that state just fell away like the air coming out of the balloon. I knew coming back that I was not going to be able to remember everything I had learned, but that I would remember the important things. That everything is okay. That my life was proceeding just the way it was supposed to. That I am securely and eternally loved. That God is right now holding me in his arms. There is nothing that I can do to get away from him. There is nothing I can do to make him mad or to surprise him or to disappoint him. There is no punishment awaiting me. There is only an awakening into brilliant light and bliss. That I am being washed over, guided, and loved. That my mistakes are like the stumbles of a toddler learning to walk to God. There is nothing to feel guilty about. There is nothing to feel afraid of. There is only lessons to learn and experiences to be had. So that was my experience, and now what I want to do is to share with you 5 things that I very clearly remember that maybe could be meaningful or helpful to you in some way. So the first one is when the experience first began and all of a sudden I was in that ocean of love. The love was magnetic. It completely captures your mind and your emotions, and I just want you guys to know that is where you came from. That is where we all came from. It's that type of love that we are missing, that we are looking for. You were born out of that love. You are that love. And so many people are looking for purpose and identity and fulfillments in this world, and they feel lost and they feel empty, and it's because we are here having an experience of contrast. We are here for the purpose of experiencing what we are not, so that we can awaken to what we are. Because like I said, I would have just stayed in the love forever, given my choice. And obviously, at some point, I did choose to come have this life on earth because God doesn't violate our free will. But we are love. It is love that compels us to do everything. It is love that compels us to come here and have this experience. As Howard Storm says, this is experiential learning here, not theoretical. When you're floating in that magnetic ocean of love and it is your entire awareness and your entire existence, and you can't even think outside of it because what more could you ever want? That's theoretical learning. This here on earth, this is experiential. You're learning, how can I be that here? How can I express that to others so that they can experience it here, so that they can have an awakening to that here? Number 2 is that when the expanded consciousness portion of my experience began, it was like waking up into brilliant light out of a dream. Like you're sleeping and then you wake up and the sun just blinds your eyes. The sense of, oh, wow, everything is okay. I am okay. I am loved. I am safe. The universe is a good and safe place. I haven't done anything wrong. Okay, this is going to be heresy in Christian circles, but I am being honest with you about what I saw. There is nothing that we can do to be guilty before God. Guilt is an illusion. I'll get into this a little bit more in a minute, but we are loved. We are safe. God will not allow anything to happen to us that could actually hurt us. You are loved. You are safe. You are secure. You are protected. Go learn and enjoy and experience life and grow as much as you can while you are in this experience. Number 3, while I was in that expanded consciousness state, I looked down and I saw the earth. Now remember how I said I woke up into that state and the brilliance just blinded me, and it was like, oh wow, everything is brilliant light. Then I looked down on the earth, and what I saw is that the earth is made of brilliant light. Not only is the earth made of brilliant light, but everything is brilliant light. We are brilliant light. We are surrounded by brilliant light. The air around us, this is all light. We are held in brilliant light, and that light is the presence of love. It is that ocean of love that is a presence, that is God, that is holding you, that is surrounding you and protecting you at all times. So an illustration that I like to use for anybody who's ever flown on an airplane on a stormy day. Down below the storm clouds, it's gray and cloudy. And then you fly up above the storm clouds in the airplane, and all of a sudden it's sunny. And you can look down and you can see the storm clouds below you. So that's what this experience was like. It was like flying in an airplane up above the storm clouds. And the storm would be like the pain and the suffering. And for me, the depression and the anxiety and the misery that I was in. But then when I got up above the storm clouds into the brilliant light, I looked down and the storm clouds were an illusion. The storm is an illusion that can only be experienced from below. From up above, you can look down and you can see it's not actually there. All of the evil and the suffering in the world is a creation of our own minds that comes from the illusion that we are separate, that we are disconnected, we are alone, that we have needs that need to be fulfilled. And that's the illusion that we come to earth to experience because we want that contrast. But it is an illusion. And people ask, well, how could a good God allow evil to exist? Based on what I was shown, the answer is very simple. He doesn't. And again, I'm going to get slammed for saying this because the suffering that we experience here is very real to us while we are in it. But it's like going to sleep and dreaming at night that you're being shot or that your best friend has died or some horrible thing, and then while you're in it, it's real. You experience it as if it is real, but then when you wake up, you realize that was an illusion created by my mind. That's what this life is like, except on a level up. This life, all the pain that we experience here is a creation of our minds that comes from the fall into sin when Adam and Eve believed that they were separate from God. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The choice to experience duality, good and evil, rather than just the good that actually exists. So all of the evil that we experience here is an illusion, our own choice to experience it so that we can have that contrast. And I know that this comes off really harsh to people who are suffering, but it can also be such a huge encouragement. To me, it's been a huge encouragement to realize, wait a minute, this isn't real. I feel depressed, I feel lonely. The reason I'm feeling that way is because it's not real, because I am actually an eternal being. I am love, I am created from love. Love is everywhere, but I can't feel that right now. And that's what spiritual growth is all about. It's about learning to go within and connect with that place of I am presence, or that sense of oneness within, and awakening to who you truly are. And then the illusion begins to melt away. I really got off on a tangent with that one. Oh, but I looked down and I saw that everything was brilliant light. And God allowed me to see us from His perspective, that we are down here doing all these things that we think are bad and wrong and evil. But to God, it's like toddlers stumbling around and making mistakes. He understands the state of consciousness that we are at. And He is not judging us or condemning us. He is just patiently waiting for us and allowing us to grow at our own pace. Number 4, the moment that I told you about earlier when I saw the key. I don't remember what the key was, but I remember that it was incredibly simple, and I have a strong suspicion that it is love. And actually, many near-death experiencers are told this. I mean, pick any near-death experience story and read it and you'll see it. I mean, over and over and over. They ask the question, what is life all about? Why are we here? And they're given the answer, life is all about love. You're here to learn about love. Life is the school of learning how to love. So I'm not sure exactly why I wasn't allowed to remember it, and I strongly suspect it's because I needed to figure that out. Number 5, when I was in, again, I feel like I keep saying expanded consciousness state over and over, but when I was in this expanded consciousness state, One other thing that I was allowed to remember was that I looked down and I saw the plan of God. What the words that were given to me was the cosmic master plan of God. And I know that sounds kind of cheesy, but I'm just being completely honest in this video. And I cannot adequately describe it to you because it was multidimensional. It was something beyond what we can experience here, obviously, otherwise we'd know all the answers. But the basic pattern was that it was a Mandela pattern. It was a multi-dimensional pattern of shapes shifting and changing and merging into each other. I mean, it was extremely colorful, and it was music, and it was vibrant, and it was perfection. And I don't know how to describe it. But the thing that I noticed about it is that it was pulling everything back into itself. And this is another reason why I'm a Universalist, because this is what I saw. There is nowhere to go to get away from God. I saw that the life path of every conscious created being was within this plan, and that within this plan they have free will, but there is no way, nothing exists outside of it. Nothing exists outside of God, so you can't even get away from God if you wanted to. If you have free will to choose God or not to choose God, but even when you don't choose God, you're still choosing God because you're choosing an experience of God's absence, which is an illusion. So anyway, that's my interpretation of it now. But at the time, I just saw this beautiful, beautiful pattern, and that there's like this current around the edges, almost like a hurricane, that was pulling everything back into the center. And what I took away from it was that even though we've been given free will, God can allow us free will. He can allow us to reject Him, to choose suffering and evil, because He knows it's inevitable. There is nowhere to go away from God. It's just a metaphysical impossibility. We emanated from God. We are of God. We are the same substance that God is. We are love and light, and we cannot get away from Him because everything that exists is an emanation or an expression or a projection of God. We exist within God, and we are only awakening to that reality. So that's what I remember from my experience in as much detail as I think I have ever shared. Feel free to ask more questions in the comments. Be loved, be happy, be at peace, and thank you for watching.